Okay, hit it.
So, yeah, these are just things I just was doing to keep myself busy over the break. Yeah. But I'm trying to do some more outdoor painting on the lab. And I'm trying to figure out some things about just outdoor painting, and I'm gonna kind of do more outdoor painting. I feel.
What are you trying to figure out?
I was doing I was trying to work with these color harmony things, and I don't know if I'm exactly getting it yet, but I'm trying to work it out, and then also trying to figure out how to become more spontaneous, and also I was sort of trying to sort of do some abstraction, or at least maybe symbolization, and just maybe experiment with that. And then in the middle piece, it's it's just sort of like a collage. I'm sort of working through maybe like sort of collage in my. It's sort of like it's like a conceptual collage of different elements from all sorts of different sources, yeah. And it's sort of like it's sort of like the composition is this sort of Last Judgment, sort of Islamic Last Judgment painting and then the two on the right, the two on the right, studies, I kind of like the ink one. That was from last semester, but I never showed it. And then the one on the far right, sort of, I don't know, it's sort of me attempting to, it's again, color harmony, thinking about color harmonies, and maybe, I don't know, that was just a study. I thought it would be kind of an interesting idea.
Okay. The floor is open. That painting is still in process, correct?
Yeah.
I feel the color in the middle painting is really intriguing, and there's something really interesting about the flatness of this color. That, like, your old paintings always have like so much depth in it, but like the reverse of having the flatness is just is really interesting to me right
First thing I wanted to give you a reference, especially that the painting all the way on the left of those small 4 pieces. Fairfield Porter, I think we would be really interested in looking at his work. There's like a lot of things you're talking about, like spontaneity in landscape and color. There's a lot of his works that I think that would be interesting for you. And that, I guess, like in relationship to like everything that's on the wall, I guess I want to figure out like where, like, what is your color source? Like, I don't know how to really explain that, but like,
What do you mean color source?
like, or what's the color story? Like, you know, like, for me, the middle one, I like it. It's like, but it, like I said this early on in your critiques, like it reminds me of like gaming color, or like a comic book color. And I think it's just like, I think it's just important to kind of know those points of reference of like where your interest in these color combinations are coming from. Because then like the one all the way on the left, it could be like a digital edit of a landscape. Like it could be like a filter, like some kind of color filter over, the Baltimore Harbor. It's like a photo. And there's this photographer, I forget his name, but I met him recently. And that's like his whole practice is just like color, digitizing color in photographs, but like to like a really like saturated color palettes. And so I don't know. I guess that's what I think about a lot when I hear you talk about color. I'm like, I want to know like the color stories. Like, what is their relationship to the content?
I guess I'm sort of curious about that as well. I think one of the things I find really remarkable about this particular body of work is knowing that those 4 small paintings on the left were done plein air, and were done with a sort of attention to disrupting your normal workflow. Because to me, and I think this could go kind of either way, like what Taj was saying about the kind of peculiarity of the color and also the flatness and the way that they seem cropped in a way that's kind of schematic or kind of like constructed much in the same way that your kind of larger, more complex kind of engineered paintings seem to me to be. To me it kind of speaks like either what you're interested in and the way that you approach making an image is like commendably durable, or it's kind of pernicious and it's like getting in your way and you can't escape it even with this kind of remarkably different way of working and different like location of working too. And I guess I'm curious, and this isn't a question for you to answer right now, but like I'm curious whether that's intentional and whether again it's like commendably durable, or whether this is something that you're just trying really hard to escape and you haven't quite gotten there yet.
Julian, can you tell me what pernicious means?
Say what?
Pernicious. Pernicious means like something that sticks around that you can't get rid of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a rash.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a rash.
Right.
Like an interaction.
Good word.
Let's hear it, people.
You know, I keep feeling like the thing for you is just speaking about a pernicious infection, is like actually, because I always see a lot of abstraction in your work, like the color in this one. I'm now like really convinced of myself about this because I see so much Tom Moskowski in your work, and I love Tom Moskowski's work, so I'm just like a fan. And then I'm thinking like I really feel like, and I know I've told you to do this many times, but I don't think that you have yet, is to read some essays about Tom Moskowski. And to then, or maybe read, I think like John Yao writes well about Moskowski, or you're just talking about Rob Storr, so that's in my mind. Read Rob Storr on Raoul de Keyser. Read some really good essays about abstract painting, because the way that you came into art, you just need a different way in. You might make that exact same painting. I am not against you making that exact same painting, but you need to somehow, if it's somehow an object, you need to somehow get on the other side of that object and look at it from the other direction. You just keep hitting it from the same angle, like you're going outside and you're trying to sort of like get around it. I think what Jillian is saying is right, but I think you need a different context and some different words, some different life breathed into this. There's nothing inherent, there's no right way to go around making a painting. It's just how you relate to it, I think, is the thing that needs to change, not the thing itself. So you're trying out all these different things, but it's how you see those things. So you need to look at somebody else. Specifically, I really feel that you need to read some writing, I'd say specifically about abstract painting, just so that you have a different way to think about what art making can be.
I want to stay on that theme a moment. I agree with that very much, and I keep getting caught up in critiquing your work in between the things about it that are really good, which, for example, your color imagination is really exceptionally good. The fecundity of your image world, you know what I mean? The plenty, the richness of it. but the sense of being stuck in habits of both mind and hand is overwhelmingly strong. And I know that you've been working on this. I mean, you know, the Christ face images and so on, you know, these plein air things. But I think that it's very deeply rooted somewhere. And one thing that I notice about all of them, and this connects to what we were talking about in Isaac's crib, is the sense that all of these things are like finished pictures. You know, everything has to be completely, every I dotted, every T crossed. And so this is a certain type of painting that you made. It's got a lot of really beautiful things in it. But it's like, oh yeah, that's a painting like that. It's like a pre-existing trope. So is this, like the sort of Monet cathedral, you know, via Warhol notion. It's also got some really beautiful color stuff in it. And this one, which is, you know, freer in the handling, that also has some really gorgeous color stuff, and the way that it's painted is really also really beautiful. But each one, it's like in this one too, that they're all like a completely finished on concept. Here is the painting, and so they always feel a little anticlimactic. You don't let us, and that's true of the one on the far right too. You don't let us in to the sort of thought generative process. We're not experiencing this thing with you. We're being handed a sort of closed, finished object. And so as a viewer, I just kind of bounce off of them. And so as we go deeper into the year, I want to insist more on this. You know, I mean, and you know, when we were talking in your studio the other day, the thing that I see when I get close up to that big painting is the routineness, the roteness of the way the paint is actually put on. Because it looks great from a distance, you get up to it and it's just like workmanlike. And when I see something like this, I just don't understand why you keep, make yourself obey that rule. You know, clearly you've got the, hands to do other things. And going back to what Fox was talking about, I think that if you think, it has to do with the way that you think about what a painting ought to be. And that needs to be opened up. And I think maybe if you open up the concept, then the execution will also open up. Austin, you want to wait? Go.
Yeah,
You want to wait on this?
No, I've always got something to say.
All right, for me, my initial, I'm not, again, sorry, walking into this completely blind. I don't have a frame of reference to judge this against.
That's what you're here for.
In terms of progress.
Yeah, that's what we want.
But I'll agree with Stephen. The color, the palettes are very unique and very original, and they are the strength, I believe, of all the painted work. I do fear, though, that there is like a attachment to drawing, and a specific kind of drawing, like that is so tight. I think there's like a preciousness there. There's like a preciousness to all the work with like across all of the 7 works. I think the one that I'm strongly the most interested in, and I feel like has the most like potential, is the one on the far right. I feel like there's an ambiguity there, and there's a little bit more of a looseness that I don't know, I feel, I don't know, that you could like, and I also like would recommend too, like, there, you make a lot of very good color choices, but it's like, there also is like, there's like a lack of commitment to a palette. And I feel like committing to a palette and exploring a palette, doing 7 of one palette, like if I was to see, I feel like that would benefit you immensely. And I don't know whether or not like it's a comfortability thing in terms of scale. I wouldn't recommend anything specifically about that. But I do feel like there's a kind of getting lost in the weeds of rendering or lost in the weeds of the drawing of something. Which can, which I would, maybe move away from or challenge yourself with. I don't know what exactly to suggest. Not that you should even listen to me, but I don't know, like just, I feel like there's like a tightness that needs to be loosened and like, and I don't know if it has to, I don't know what your relationship is to failure, like maybe the plein air is a way for you to work, maybe a step towards that direction. It's a low commitment kind of project that you give yourself that has a simple end. But if that's the case, I think you can give yourself other kinds of projects, that maybe, like for example, sticking to one palette, or sticking to one size, or sticking to one subject, that I feel like in the long term, when coming to larger work, decisions can be more easily made. Because I do feel like with the larger piece, there is a lot of questioning of yourself, which isn't the case with the small ones so much.
How do you see that?
It just, the composition, the composition just seems like it was done in different times, or it's just not certain of itself. This is just me, this is just my opinion.
That's what you're
It's just, it's not necessarily the case, but like, it's in my opinion. And it is also not complete, which is mentioned, but at the same time, I think like, maybe from the outset too, like, it's, the color choices aren't as concise, I guess, or certain as the like plein air paintings are. And that reads pretty, to me, that's pretty clear from the offset. But it's not the case with like the figure, which is, I don't know.
The figure on the right?
Yeah. I don't know. I know that's like meandering and maybe not useful at all.
Well, I think the issue of failure is key. Because, and I'm not just talking to Joe now, I mean, I think there are a number of people this could apply to. Painting is terrifying in a certain way. Because suddenly it turns into nothing but chaotic mud. And you've got nothing. And so you start building these barricades against that, possibility. And one of them is in drawing. And so you paint by filling in the drawing. And then, gradually as you get confidence and sophistication, you maybe get past that. And then another one is the notion of style. that you come up with, this is my style, this is how I do it. And what that usually turns into like a cast that's like a plaster cast around your imagination. It's you know, formed too soon. And so the thing is to try to let the style emerge from the chaos, not to impose the style on the chaos. But that requires a certain amount of confidence that the thing will eventually emerge. And that's hard to have sometimes. But that's the only way the road goes.
Yeah, also from that, like everything that Austin was saying, I think what came up for me and what he was saying is that I feel like in the drawing, I don't think personally that drawing is a bad thing, but I think that there's in a way that it can, like everything feels like evenly applied, like to the line weight, the speed, like everything is like so even, the color, everything is even. Like there is no dynamic like spots where you can tell the speed is different, or you can tell the line weight is different. But I think like, you know, I'm not Austin, but I think like what he's seeing in that is like the one on the end is that the speed changes, like the composition is made quicker. Like it's not as like, I don't want to make it sound bad, it's not as like thought out. It's like, it seems like it was just done and it like something emerged from the brown ground, and it's not like so rendered evenly. You kind of just painted this figure on top of this checkerboard that kind of also emerges. So I don't know. I mean,
Well, this one is different in that way too, and that it's not drawn
yeah,
first.
yeah,
It's very confident, actually. It really has that, you know, I don't see that, you're giving yourself that permission most of the time.
yeah. And like in that one, like the trees are like it's painted through. Like it's like
Yeah,
it's allowing the paint to go through other things. where-
exactly.
And this is kind of like it's evenly applied. Like I don't know, because even myself, like I paint in blocks of shapes and color, but like there is a way that I'm not restricted to how the paint is going to be applied. Like I change speeds, or like I think about why the speed of this changes, instead of it just all being so evenly one thing. But it's a learning curve that I had to go through too. So last year I was doing a lot of that.
I haven't thought about it, but after Tosh mentioned about the game aspect of your paintings, because I always question like what your painting content is really about. But I get the formal decisions you make with the foreground and background, like flattening the foreground and creating a composition. But I was like, is it just a dystopian world, or is it like, are you trying to like tell people that civilization is gonna like ruin everything and they're just rolling? Like, are you encouraging it, critiquing? I was like really not sure, but now I see it in the lens of game space. It makes so much sense for me. But I feel like there's in between, like you're in such a great like space, like in between of imagery that's for religious context, and then and also the game space, which creates this very confusing narrative, at least for me. There's a lot of great things happening in your painting with the middle one, but again, like, I think understanding which, like, it's, you know, games have like a heavy conceptual context of like different cultures, but the reason why they work well is because like we understand it. It's a conceptual space that, like, it's not real. It's a conceptual space where like literally anything can happen. But then when it's a religious context, that has like a very like a prophetic message to teach people. So I feel like if you're gonna just borrow things from different cultures, I would say like I would suggest just you know, just take them. Like I feel like you're in such a weird space that the paintings, for me, it's coming out like hard to understand like what I'm trying to execute.
I don't know that I yearn for that kind of resolution, like maybe I'm just not articulating this painting to myself in the same terms that you are, Isaac. But I feel like, we've been sort of talking about the scope of your project, and I kind of want to dive more into the particulars of this painting, because I feel like what's really different about this from your past ones, and what I think is really smart about this painting, is the way that you've sort of found kind of color zones in the painting for yourself, and those operate abstractly kind of differently than the spatial zones that are articulated through the drawing of your painting. So for example, like the way that the pink houses in the back kind of like merge into the people falling into the pink mouth of the monster in the foreground. And that happens kind of throughout, through the green and the blue as well. And sort of like who's to tell kind of what's going to happen as the painting has finished, but I haven't seen that kind of orchestration of composition in your works yet. Like to me, everything kind of before this has been a little more tied down to rendering, and everything kind of has its like unique spatial location in the painting, and sort of like objects are far more discrete than they are in this one. And to me, that opens up a lot of opportunities, and this is about as prescriptive as I'll ever get. But like, it opens up opportunities to kind of take Taj up on his advice and allow yourself, working within those kind of color zones and like within the architecture of the painting that you very smartly constructed, to get a little looser and to get a little kind of less workmanlike. And a little less kind of like reliant on drawing, even because you have a really strong kind of foundational composition that works with the elements, like it works with the kind of unique things in the painting that butt against each other, but it works at the kind of scale of the picture as well.
I've got two different things to say. One, we've talked a lot about your color. I think that the choice of color is good, but the way that you implement the color is so bad. Like, I feel like things like this painting, like maybe that periwinkle and that blue and that yellow, like you mix the palette before, but then there's just this, and like, this I actually find the color in this painting to be the worst, because every single highlight is made with the same kind of, you've mixed white into all the background, and then you've mixed the same kind of like yellowy ochre to do all the highlights all over the trees, and it makes them look totally flat. And for me, that's like, oh my god, it's horrible. And like the same thing happens here. Well, I agree, like the color here is like really nice, but then because it's the exact same pink all the way up, by the time I get to the top, I'm like, please stop using that pink. Like, why isn't it a different pink? Why isn't, when you get all the way over here, a different pink? And like, these stairs, you couldn't even put a different color blue on those stairs. You were so locked into dark blue and light blue that there was like, you couldn't even make it so that the stairs had like variation of color in them. So it's like you're premeditating something, and then you're just like on autopilot. And so then the next thing that I have to say is, I don't know why, but as we were sort of in the crit, I started wondering if you were a clean person or a messy person. Like, is your house clean or messy?
I don't know. I guess probably on the
Cleaner side? I was just thinking, like, I wonder if it wouldn't help for you to, like, do some decorating in your house and to try to have people over and to entertain. Because I feel like, I know this sounds weird, but I feel like one of the things about, like, and you said this in introducing the work, which is that you needed something to do over the break. Right? And so like I see that there's this sort of habit that you have of giving yourself a project, and then you're like a train on train tracks. There's no getting off those tracks, like you are stuck on those tracks. And so it doesn't matter, you set out south, you set out west, you set out east, it doesn't matter because you're a train on train tracks, so it doesn't really matter what destination you set yourself up. So do something that's sort of social. Do something in which you actually have to, as a person, contend with other people. You have to be flexible. You have to wonder and receive somebody else. You have to maybe cook them some food and see how they're gonna like eat it, if they like it. You know, I'm just thinking like painting is actually a very social thing. And one of the ways in which it's, I think that what we're responding to is that it becomes almost antisocial in its like, it's got blinders on, because you're choosing something and then you're just like setting off on a track. And I don't think that that's, I think painting should be, at least I would say, I mean, I know, I love a lot of outsider art. I mean, outsider art can be really, really, really responsive, and so I can't exactly square that to what I'm saying right now, but there's just a way in which you have to contend with somebody else's reception of these things. You have to not just go into your room, put your headphones on, and then be a train on a train track. You need to figure out a way to somehow have these things be responsive, like as you're making them and as I think that that's part of what people are saying about them.
Can I give a quick recommendation,
Yeah.
real quick? Maybe take one of your paintings that you don't necessarily care for or that isn't finished and give it to somebody else and have them paint on it and give it back.
That's a cool
But
idea.
then you have to
Yeah.
respond to what they've done, and it pulls you from filling in all the little pieces that you drew.
I think that's a really great idea also, and I would recommend that to anybody in the room, actually. That's a really great experiment. Yeah. Taj, are you waving about what?
I will paint on this painting.
Oh, okay.
I just chunked that in.
One other quick thing. Do you know the work of Ed Paschke?
I do.
Ed Paschke. Paschke. Do you know it? No? Check it out. All right, that's it.